Imagine just waking up, grabbing your morning coffee, checking your feeds, and suddenly realizing the entire technology landscape as you know it has fundamentally ruptured. Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are unpacking the reality of May 6, 2026. 6 explosive stories dropped all on the exact same morning, and collectively, they completely shatter the era of good enough tech. We're looking at a day where the defensive tools of tomorrow are literally being used as weapons today, where our digital privacy boundaries are being completely rewritten, and where the physical limits of our hardware have essentially been pushed to the breaking point. Okay, let's dive right into this.
Here's our roadmap for today. Act 1 is the cyber crisis. Act 2 covers the gaming evolution. And Act 3 explores the hardware frontier.
Act 1, the cyber crisis. We're calling this one high anxiety.
Right, so our first major story is the absolutely terrifying reality of quantum ransomware. This is malware using post-quantum cryptographic algorithms that are completely unbreakable by any existing classical supercomputer. An unknown hacking group deployed this against AT&T, totally paralyzing their network. Now, until now, ransomware used classical algorithms that, while incredibly strong, were theoretically breakable if a nation-state just threw enough supercomputing power at them. But not anymore. This is a terrifying paradigm shift in digital warfare. The very tools designed by the government to protect us from future quantum computers have essentially been weaponized against us right now. To give you an idea of how sophisticated this is, the attackers layered 3 NIST-approved post-quantum algorithms, Crystal's Kyber, Crystal's Dilithium, and Sphinx Plus. If you tried to break these with today's best supercomputers, it would take anywhere from 500 to over 2,000 years. So, unless you happen to have a time machine sitting in your garage, that data isn't budging. The massive so what here is that even the NSA's most powerful computers literally cannot decrypt this A&T data right now. The defense for this simply does not exist yet.
And that brings us to the staggering ransom demand, $500 million. $500 million. That's the ransom, following an outage that took down 45 million subscribers, severed 911 services, and severely disrupted critical infrastructure. The crucial takeaway here is simple. If one of America's largest, most well-resourced telecommunications giants can be brought to its knees like this, absolutely no business is safe.
Now, while the world was watching the AT&T disaster, 10 million digital vaults were quietly being robbed in the background. One of the world's most trusted password managers suffered a catastrophic supply chain attack. It started back on March 19th with a compromised NPM package, just a standard developer tool. By April 24th, that malicious update was deployed right into the password manager's command line interface. And by May 1st, hackers were secretly exfiltrating master passwords. Millions of users who did everything completely right by using a secure vault still had their entire digital identities compromised.
So, if you're impacted by this, or honestly, if you just want to bulletproof your security moving forward, here are the direct action steps you need to take right now. First, change all critical passwords: banking, crypto, primary email, the whole shebang. Second, and this is absolutely vital, enable hardware-based two-factor authentication, like a YubiKey. Those SMS text codes, they just aren't enough anymore. And third, if you use a CLI tool for development, update it immediately and rotate every single credential it touches. Because in this new era, centralized trust basically equals centralized risk.
Moving on to Act 2, the gaming evolution, debate and awe.
The big news out of Congress this morning is the introduction of the heavily debated Gamer Privacy Act. Look, for years, gaming companies have collected massive amounts of telemetry data to fight cheating, often operating in this really murky regulatory gray zone. This unprecedented bipartisan bill establishes some extremely strict boundaries. It completely prohibits the collection of biometric and neural data, meaning no more eye tracking or stress level analysis. It severely restricts kernel-level anti-cheat software from running deep in your operating system 24/7, and it mandates a strict right to data deletion.
Naturally, this has sparked a massive divide in the industry, and we really want to look at this impartially because both sides make some incredibly strong arguments. On one hand, you have major competitive publishers like Riot Games. They argue that kernel-level anti-cheat is basically a necessary evil to maintain competitive integrity. Their point is that sophisticated cheaters are using deep system exploits, so the anti-cheat has to operate at that same deep level to catch them. Without it, they say, multiplayer gaming just turns into a lawless, unfair wasteland.
But on the exact opposite side of the aisle, you have folks like CD Projekt Red CEO Marcin Iwiński. He argues that player privacy is simply not negotiable, flat out stating that kernel-level access effectively turns personal PCs into surveillance devices. So this legislation really puts your personal PC security right at the center of a huge debate. Ultimately, it asks, how much privacy are we actually willing to trade just for a fair game? All right, let's pivot to something that is generating pure, unadulterated excitement. Rockstar Games has officially confirmed that Grand Theft Auto 6 is utilizing local large language models. We are talking about AI running entirely offline, directly on your console or your PC, to generate dynamic, real-time NPC dialogue. There's no internet connection required and zero latency. This is not pre-recorded repetitive audio, it's an AI literally constructing dialogue on the fly based on exactly what you are doing in that specific moment.
To understand how they're doing this, you have to look at their dialogue decay system. This is Rockstar's custom algorithm that tracks your conversation history. It actually assigns freshness scores to prevent NPCs from repeating themselves, so you're never going to hear an NPC complain about taking an arrow to the knee 5 times in a row ever again. If you walk into a neighborhood wearing a specific outfit, they might comment on it. If you cause trouble and come back 3 game days later, they'll actually remember you and react to your reputation. The game tracks over 50 context variables, weather, your wanted level, time of day, just to ensure the world feels completely alive and responsive. The sheer scale of this is mind-boggling. They started with over 35,000 professionally recorded baselines from more than 300 voice actors. The local AI then uses these as building blocks to create literally infinite dialogue combinations. With a rumored premium price tag of $80 to $120, these stats are exactly how Rockstar is justifying the cost. You aren't just buying a game anymore, you're buying a living, breathing simulation that never, ever repeats itself.
Act 3. The Hardware Frontier, Friction and Innovation. Our first hardware story is a pretty humbling one for Apple. Their most powerful chip ever, the M5 Ultra, is facing a severe thermal crisis. Turns out, when you glue 2 M5 Max chips together to handle massive AI workloads, you generate an unbelievable amount of heat. Under load, the M5 Ultra is hitting blistering temperatures of 105 to 110 degrees Celsius. Just to put that in perspective, compare that to high-end Intel and AMD chips, which sit quite comfortably in the 85 to 95 degree range. Apple's silicon has basically been pushed way past its safe physical limits. So Apple is caught between a rock and a hard place with some extremely costly trade-offs. To fix this 250-watt thermal bomb, they basically have 3 options. 1. Implement liquid cooling, which they have never done in a consumer Mac, and it introduces a whole host of new risks. 2. They could throttle the clock speeds, which effectively kills the exact performance gains that professionals are paying top dollar for. Or 3. They delay the Mac Studio launch entirely to October 2026 or even later. This whole situation is a fascinating cautionary tale. We are essentially watching the impending end of Moore's Law, hitting the literal physical limits of how much power we can cram into silicon.
But hey, Apple isn't just struggling. They are also innovating aggressively. Enter the Apple Vision Lite. Set for a fall 2026 release, this is a $1,499 spatial computer, and it is the absolute critical middle tier in their wearable ecosystem strategy. The grand ambition here is profound. Apple is actively designing the hardware pipeline to completely eliminate the iPhone by the year 2030. They literally want to move computing entirely from your pocket directly to your face.
Let's compare this to the ultra-premium Vision Pro. Frankly, the Pro failed commercially due to its massive $3,499 price tag and how heavy it was. The Vision Lite cuts that price by more than half, down to $1,499, and practically halves the weight down to around 350 grams. But what is truly revolutionary here isn't what they took away, but what they added. The Vision Lite introduces a feature that sounds straight out of science fiction: mind typing.
Let's break down this mind-typing tech because it's incredible. It uses advanced EMG, or electromyography sensors, built right into the frame of the headset. When you simply think about typing, your fingers make microscopic, completely involuntary twitch movements. The Vision Lite's sensors read those invisible movements and translate your thoughts directly into text, achieving speeds of up to 120 words per minute. There's no physical keyboard, no virtual floating keyboard you have to poke at. It's just you, literally thinking the words onto the screen with 98% accuracy. It is an absolutely stunning leap forward for human-computer interaction. And that wraps up our explainer. Just look at the ground we've covered from a single morning's news cycle. We've got unbreakable quantum ransomware taking down telecom giants, supply chain attacks compromising millions of secured digital vaults, AI breathing real, dynamic life into our virtual worlds, and mind-reading headsets that are poised to replace the smartphone entirely. So I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Are we really ready for a world where our smartphones are obsolete, where AI actively creates our reality, and where the defensive tools of tomorrow are already being used as weapons against us today? Thank you so much for joining me, and keep questioning the tech around you.